Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to what I hope will be a relatively short discussion video. Before I go on, I want to thank everybody for all the well wishes and best thoughts that they've been sending my way. I appreciate that very much, and I'll tell you that I am feeling obviously much better and well on my way to finishing up my recovery here, hopefully in the next couple of days. I have been watching an extraordinary amount of BookTube as a result of my not making BookTube videos and other things keeping me from doing, or my health issues keeping me from doing other things. And in the process of doing that, a couple of things came up that kind of brought up this discussion with me. And what I want to talk about today is DNFing. I think I've talked about this before. I'm pretty sure I've discussed this topic before. And before I go any further, let me just say that I am not calling anybody out for DNFing. I fully support anyone who's right to DNF any book for any reason. But I do think that it is possible that, once you get kind of caught up in DNFing books because you don't like the way they begin or whatever, that you may fall kind of into a trap. And I kind of want to talk about some of the things where I would urge people to be perhaps a little cautious about DNFing. Now, that is going to sound like a lecture, of course, and a lot of the people who I know from BookTube DNF, and they certainly know their own minds, but just a couple of things to keep in mind. Now, part of what brought this up with me is that I've been DNFing a lot more commonly. I have a whole video about books, classics I don't have any intent to read. I was kind of agreed to read Don Quixote as a part of, as one of those books, and I DNF'd after 100 pages recently. I attempted to read Sophie's Choice by William Styron. I DNF'd that after about 100 pages. And at the same time, I'm also reading Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shree, and I'm still probably 200 pages from the end, and I haven't DNF'd. And this kind of brought up for me, why I might DNF and why I might not, and what's, positive about DNFing and what's not. So let me just kind of run through these issues I think that are problematic about DNFing. So one reason I hear for people DNFing is that the book is slow, or it's boring, or it doesn't catch their attention, or it doesn't kind of bring them in the way they hope to in the first few pages or something like that. I think that we have to be kind of careful, and I would urge caution on this, is that sometimes books are intentionally built slowly. Now, if that's not your taste, and you never want to read a book like that, no matter how good it may turn out to be, then by all means, continue to DNF books that don't engage you completely right out of the gates. But I do think that there are a number of books that kind of build up, and the power of the book, the emotional power of the book builds up, and that the appreciation for the writing of the book builds up over time. And so, just DNFing something because it doesn't quite fit your style of reading, or the kind of book that you normally like, right out of the gate, I think that's something to be cautious about. Again, Tomb of Sand would be an example of this. Tomb of Sand is not really a kind of book that I find myself enjoying, but there have been things that keep me going. There have been beautiful writing and emotions and characters keep me going, which made me want to get to the end. So, while I haven't finished it, I'm not intending on DNFing Tomb of Sand, where with, Styron's book or with Don Quixote, I felt free to DNF. Sometimes I think people DNF a book because they start reading a book and they go, oh, well, this is just like this book. I've already read a book like this, and this is just like this, and this one doesn't seem as good as the one I read before, and so I don't want to read this one. Again, fair enough. Your time is yours, and your enjoyment and your approach to reading is yours, but I do think oftentimes when we do this, we might dismiss a reading of a very good book because it seems similar, and because we feel like we've read a version of the story that was better. As an example here, I don't think there's in anybody's mind, you would say that there's no connection between Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmond Ward and Beloved by Toni Morrison, that there are some thematic things there. So I think it would have been a shame if someone stopped reading Sing Unburied Sing because they saw this kind of thematic kind of connection to Beloved by Toni Morrison. They are two very different stories, and I think both beautiful and both really powerful. My third reason for cautious on DNFing is that you're imposing your standard on the writer rather than being open to what the writer is trying to say. Again, and I've said this every other time too, again, this is completely up to you. Of course you get to make this decision, and of course I'm not trying to talk you out of doing whatever you want to do. Just kind of caution you about this. to me, and I may be alone in this, when I pick up a book to read it, I'm entering into kind of a contract with the author. I'm going to give them a chance to tell me their story, to show me their writing, to develop their ideas, to develop their characters. And I do think that oftentimes, from my point of view, it's a little unfair if I then impose my own standards on that and say, well, this is not the kind of character I like, or the way this book is structured is not one that I care for, and I'm not willing to be open to what the writer is trying to do. To me, some of the most rewarding reading experiences have come from, starting a book that completely is different than my expectations, and finding that as I go on, the power of that book grows. And again, this would be kind of why I'm continuing to read Tomb of Sand. And then finally, I would say that the other thing I want to caution you about with DNFing too quickly and DNFing as a kind of a regular basis is that I think you end up kind of curating what you read down to an increasingly narrow band of things that you like, of things that you think are good. And I think what can happen is then you don't end up challenging yourself in these areas. And I think it's okay. Every once in a while, maybe push through a book that's been recommended to you. Maybe push through a book that you don't care for the starting of. Maybe go a little further than you normally would with DNFing and just give it a chance and see if it doesn't expand the type of book you like and the type of writing you like by reading a little further. I think oftentimes if we dismiss books or we DNF books too quickly, we fail to do that. Now, as I said, I DNF William Styron's Sophie's Choice after about 100 pages, and I DNF Don Quixote after about 100 pages. That's about my limit. That's my point of no return. If I go beyond that, I usually will go on and finish a book. So, given what I just said, how do I justify DNFing those two books? With Don Quixote, I would justify it by saying that it just wasn't working on me. Its episodic nature, its repetitiveness, and the sense of humor, which is there and occasionally funny, just weren't enough to keep me going on. And it felt like it would just be literally hundreds of more pages of the same thing. Again, given everything I've said, that may be completely unfair. With Styron's Sophie's Choice, number one, I got it from the Libby app and my time to read it was running out. Number two, when I got the book, I didn't realize how long it actually was. I thought it was much shorter. And it's kind of in that range of books where, I probably think harder about starting books if they're that long. And number three, the writing style and the pace of the plot were, after 100 pages, still not working for me. Slightly over ornate, if occasionally beautiful writing style, and a plot which was unfolding, I thought, at a glacial pace, perhaps because of the writer's the style of the writing. Anyway, those reasons there may fly in the face of everything I said. And again, it's not that I'm telling you can't DNF, you shouldn't DNF, that DNFing is wrong, that I look down on anybody who DNFs. I certainly don't. But just some words of caution about DNFing and maybe giving books a little bit more of a chance, particularly if they've been recommended to you by people you know or that you've seen or have a good reputation. I think it might be worth a few dozen extra pages. Anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you for watching.